Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. Last July, it was announced that the Powerpuff Girls would be returning in the form of yet another reboot on Cartoon Network, or would it rather be a revival/sequel series, as there's been some mixed messaging as to what exactly this new Powerpuff Girls is going to be. But that was last July, and since then we've had no updates from Cartoon Network regarding this new series and when it could potentially be coming out. So with that being said, when will this new Powerpuff Girls series premiere on Cartoon Network, and what form will it be in? Will it be in the form of a reboot or a revival, a sequel series, or something else entirely? So first and foremost, let's discuss what this new series is, because I've been seeing some mixed messaging online as to what exactly it is. I've seen some people call it a reboot, some people have called it a revival, and others have called it a sequel series to the original. If you look at the title of this video, and if you look at my other videos discussing this new series, I've been referring to it as a revival series that may or may not be a direct sequel to the original series. And the reason I call it that and I'm referring to it as that is because about 6 months ago, Craig McCracken took to Twitter to discuss this new series that is coming, and I'll leave a card above to that video if you want to see the full details on that. But in short, Craig said that this new series is going to be titled The Powerpuff Girls something. It's going to have a subtitle to it instead of just being called The Powerpuff Girls, and the reason why it's going to have a subtitle is because this series is going to have a long-form story to it. It's going to have a plot that develops throughout the entire run of the show, and this subtitle is supposed to signify what this overarching story is going to be about. It really seems to me that this show is going to take the form of a sequel series to the original, whether it be a direct sequel or a show that's loosely connected to the original. I do think that this new Powerpuff Girls series is going to be taking place after the events of the original series. It's not going to be another case of the 2016 reboot where they're trying to reinvent the Powerpuff Girls. This seems like a show that's not only going to be true to the original series, but it's going to try to develop it further with actual plot and lore attached to this universe, as opposed to, you know, it being kind of like every episode is a one-and-off type thing where there's no real big overarching story attached to the Powerpuff Girls. I haven't seen the Powerpuff Girls in years. I haven't watched it from start to finish, so I don't know if the original show had some plot lines throughout this series, but from what I recall, it was more so, you know, every episode was you watching the Powerpuff Girls fight some villain and capture a bad guy or stop a crime from happening. So this series is going to be a show where you're starting to watch it, there's a start point, there's a midpoint, and an end point to a story. It's not going to be that there's one and off type episodes all throughout this series. I'm sure there'll probably be some filler here and there, but overall there is going to be a story that they're trying to tell you. Now, as to when exactly this series is going to premiere, that is the big question, because as you've heard me talk about in length recently, if you've watched some of my recent videos, Cartoon Network has a tendency of announcing shows and then not really saying anything about them or giving any updates regarding the status of this series, so it's really up to speculation for the most part on when these shows will be premiering. But for this show, for the Powerpuff Girls Revival series, I'm going to take to Craig McCracken, who actually tweeted on October 11th of last year saying that the series is not in production yet. We are just starting the long development process, meaning if they're just starting this development process, this series is probably a long way away. I honestly feel like we're probably not going to hear about this show again until probably the end of 2024 or some point in 2025. I don't think this series is coming this year. I don't think it's going to come next year, unless if we get surprised and all of a sudden Cartoon Network premieres it towards the end of 2024. I really do think this is a show that's probably not going to premiere on the channel until 2025. I would say, you know, the absolute latest would be the end of 2025. I'd be shocked, in all honesty, if this series doesn't come until 2026, but we're probably looking at spring to early fall 2025 for the release window of this series. That's what I would think based on this comment here, that they're just starting the development process. They have to come up with the story, you know, they have to come up with everything they want to tell in this new series. They have to come up with the characters that are going to be involved, voice actors who are going to voice these new characters, returning characters, all of that has to be figured out. Then it has to go to animation. They have to record lines for it as well. So I really do feel like, given all of that, like I said, we're probably looking at 2025 for the release of the Powerpuff Girls Revival series. You know, I've said before on this channel that Cartoon Network desperately needs new shows right now. And look, the Powerpuff Girls Revival was announced in July July of last year, there's no chance this was something that was ever going to premiere this year, at least in my opinion. Before reading this comment from Craig, I was really thinking this is a 2024 series, but after reading this comment that they just started the development process back in October, I'm really thinking this is something that's not going to come until 2025. I mean, look, things take time, they take time to develop, to flesh out ideas and whatnot, but Cartoon Network desperately needs new shows. I've said this at length in multiple videos lately. They can't survive on what they have now. The Powerpuff Girls revival isn't going to save it on its own. They need a lot more than just the Powerpuff Girls. They need a wide variety of series to premiere on the channel. So hopefully between now and 2025, when I think this series is going to premiere, there's a lot of new shows airing on Cartoon Network. Just fingers crossed that's the case, because that's what they really need to happen. We can't be sitting here in potentially 2025 whenever this series ends up premiering and we're still looking at a very similar Cartoon Network where they've only got a handful of shows airing new episodes on the channel. We need Cartoon Network to have a wide variety of shows like they did back in the day, and hopefully the Powerpuff Girls becomes a big series once again on the channel like it was back in the early 2000s. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all of this. Do you guys agree with me that this series probably isn't going to come out until 2025, or do you think we're going to see it earlier or later than that? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.